So, plan for this recording is to do the board, the chessboard, and let's see if we can just this is a completed version of where we're headed. Some important things to note as we go through, just so you know where we're headed. Each square, each space on the chessboard has to be 2 by 2, 2 inches by 2 inches. The entire point of giving each chess piece a specific base size, specifically 1.5 inches in total diameter, means that it can fit neatly on the board when we get to the assembly next time. The other thing is that we need, and I'm positive it's in the plans for the project, and that is you need to have some sort of extra portion around the outside. This is a super easy, just chamfer that you can do. It's one part feature, an extra extrusion and a chamfer. Takes about 2 seconds. So because of the way, first of all, anytime you have the same thing a bunch of times, you're probably going to want to use a pattern, which in this case, well, it's going to break it if I undo it. I'm going to delete these extra things so you can see what's going on. So anytime you have the same thing a bunch of times, you're going to want to use a pattern. But there is sketch pattern where you'd make one square and then extrude, and then when you go to extrude, choose every square you want to extrude. The other option is to make one of something and then pattern that however many times. Now, the reason why I had to start with a 2 by 2 or 2 grid by 2 grid space, because Onshape won't do like certain extrusions. Like it can't render a specific shape because it's like overlapping. So instead, normally I would have, in order to make these even squares, would just have one go, every other one go up. But in order to make this work, I actually had to have one go into the part and the other one come out. So because otherwise, like there's this weird line in between them. Like if this extrusion went down the same way this went into the part, there'd be a line of material, and you can't really render a line of material because it's not 3-dimensional. Line is 1-dimensional. So we're going to make one of these and then pattern it. So I'm going to make a new part studio. And let's go full screen. And let's do our first sketch on, let's do on the plane called top. And because that'll be sort of the footprint. Doesn't really matter which plane because you're going to do an assembly and everything's just going to be constrained and turned around and everything. So it's fine. But you might as well use the correct one. And I could turn off the visibility of all of these. And like I said, I'm going to make a single, well, what will be 4 inches by 4 inches, but it will be two blocks by 2 blocks, or 2 places on the chessboard. So let's go ahead and do 4 this way and 4 this way. And we can finish the sketch and extrude this. And you can extrude it any amount, but I think a 1-inch extrusion works fine because that'll be the thickness of the entire board. And we could turn off the visibility of the origin spot. Okay, so this is going to be a 2x2 grid situation. So let's put a sketch on there. And like, just to show you what's going on. Hold on a second. If I did what I would normally do, which is make a 2x2 rectangle here, and actually watch it work this time. I can never break things when I want to break things. But if I made a 2x2 here and then made another rectangle here, which will all automatically be 2x2 because it's snapping to things that exist. So this would be the normal way of doing it. You finish sketch, extrude, and extrude both of these things. It won't let you, which the idea is to just do the tiniest amount of extrusion so that it makes a separate face, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to let me, you can tell because it's red. And in fact, it's going to, not work. So the way you have to do it, or one way to do it, is instead of doing both extrusions at the same time, sketch on and then make a rectangle that is 2x2, dimension 2x2, and we're going to finish sketch and extrude this rectangle like the smallest amount so that it's almost invisible, except it will show up as a different face when it's a full part file. So like 0.01 or 0.05, something like that. Okay, so there's that, and it looks like there's a line, but it's really just an entire like the smallest amount of extrusion, which will work fine for our purposes. And then to get the other one, we'll put another sketch on this big surface and get a rectangle and go from here in, and you'll get a snap. Finish the sketch and extrude this area, where if you try to extrude it up, it will have that same problem that I had when I tried to do both at the same time, because it's trying to like render the same face in two places. So we're going to switch it to remove, but only remove 0.01 and hit OK. And now we have our 2x2 grid, which I need to make sure this one is on add. Yeah, add. Yeah, so another thing, and this has come up a couple times, make sure that when you're doing extrusions that are creating material, like the one that goes up here, it's always on add. We almost never will use new. That's what happened with the mini train straight track, where it had like an extra part in the part file, which is strange. Either way, there we have our 2x2 grid, and we want to make this so that the entire chessboard is 8x8. So that means we are going to linear pattern, which is the default type. We don't want a part pattern. We want a feature pattern. And the features we want to pattern are extrusion 1, extrusion 2, and extrusion 3. And the direction we want to pattern is anything going sideways. We want 4 of them. And we want the gaps between them to be the width of one of the pieces, which was also 4. Okay, so that would be one extrusion, but we can do both of these if we go second direction and then choose the direction as this way. Direction, distance, or instance count. Okay, so we do 4. Is it going to let me? Yeah, there we go. 4 and also 4 inches on this one. And it can do the entire board in a single linear pattern. And if you miss that you can pause the replay and everything, it'll be there. And so there we go. That's almost completely done. So we need a sort of a embellishment around the outside, like I showed before. And in order to do that, I'm going to put a sketch on the back, on any one of these faces on the back. And I want a rectangle that sticks out an inch in every direction. And there is a way to do this with offset, but it's easy enough to just do dimension, the distance from here to, and I guess we got to do use for a bunch of these. Just use like the ones in the corners, and dimension, the distance from here to here, and it'll be easier if I look at it straight on. Dimension, the distance from here to here as 1, the distance from here to here as 1, and the same thing over here, and the same thing right here. Oh, that's not what I want. Dimension. You can see this dimension is grayed out because I tried to dimension this one line which already existed, and if you try to dimension something that you can't change, it will give you the disabled one. But either way, we want here and here as 1, and you can tell it's fully constrained because all of the lines are black. And I want to finish the sketch and extrude this just the outside. Some reason it's giving me the everything. It doesn't really matter if it gives you the everything, because we're going to extrude the other direction. And here you have to make sure you don't do new, because we don't want new, we want to add. And we don't want it to interfere with the other part. So let's try 0.9. Will that give me a thing? No, it's still giving me issues. How did I do this before? Let's go back to this. Let's in this sketch, before you finish the sketch, let's use everything, or at least everything around the outside, so that we get these hard lines around the outside. And then we should be able to, let's see here, extrude, and only, yeah, there we go. The key is your extrusion can only be this outside part. And we don't want it to go up. We want it to go, or we don't want it to go downward. I mean, unless that's what you want your design to be. But let's go the other direction. And we don't want new, we want add. Please don't turn red. Why is it turning red? Let's try 0.9 and see if that fixes it. What is interfering? And merge with all. Hold on, give me a second here. This totally worked a second ago. Let's see what happened with, did I delete all of this? Please tell me I didn't delete all this. Okay. So it's this. Let's edit. Add 0.98. Why is that solid? Doesn't make sense. All right, let's try. Give me a second while I work this out. I don't know why this back has these extra lines. They shouldn't be there. Oh, this is on some reason I got all these parts. All right, let's try this again. I don't want those to be separate parts. I want them to be what do I have it set to here? Part pattern. Part pattern and add. Okay, so maybe that's it. So before the linear pattern, where I've got this, I want part pattern, add entities to pattern, the entire thing, I guess, and direction, something going sideways. I want 4 of them, and I want them 4 inches apart. And I want a second direction with instant count 4, distance 4, and direction sideways. There we go. And hit OK. And if it's clean on the back, yeah, there we go. All right. So now we need to do the sort of perimeter sketch, which we should be able to get an offset. And if it lets us do an offset, no, let's try use. Is that, yeah, use, and then offset. Yeah, weird. Why is it not? Oh, well, all right, well, never mind. Forget the offset. Let's do just a rectangle that sticks out past, and we can just do the dimensions from there to there as 1, which is essentially an offset, but it's not grabbing the perimeter of the existing part as a thing. And so there is that. Let's finish the sketch and extrude, choose this. We want to add, and we want to switch direction. Okay, let's try that. And let's do a depth that won't intersect. So like 0.95, I think. And is that going to work? Yeah, there we go. All right. And then some sort of embellishment around the outside, either like a chamfer, which in order to chamfer, you just click edges, and the dimension is the amount to chamfer. So 0.5 will make it like exactly half of that, or nearly exactly half, because this extrusion is not quite an inch. If we did it 0.95, which is the height of the thing, it would cut it all the way down, which doesn't look terrible. This is your call. A fillet, not a fillet, a fillet is a rounded edge, which you choose the outside, and then the dimension is like the radius of the curve. So 0.5 will look like that. And 0.95 will look like that. Okay, that doesn't look terrible. And so there we have, that is the chessboard. Make sure that you are, I think enough of you are doing all of your parts as different documents, like where we did part, whatever here. So it would make the assembly more difficult because you're going to be inserting from other areas rather than from all inside this document. But I think there's enough of you that I'm going to have to do both types of assemblies, like in order to do it the other way. But regardless, you should definitely be renaming your documents or your tabs, whatever, to whatever they're supposed to be. The other thing that you need to do is you're going to need, and I'll do this at the beginning of the assembly, you're going to need 2 of each, which you just make by duplicating. You can right click and duplicate. And in the duplicate, or whichever one, that is where you're going to change the colors, which rename, edit appearance, change to the second color, or you could change both of them. It doesn't really matter as long as you have 2 of the same pieces where they're 2 different colors. Yeah, feel free to change. You don't have to, one of the teams doesn't have to be default blue. And next time we might work on how to change like individual features, but for now, that's where we're going to leave it. And I'll see if I can figure out how to do the assembly from different documents. All right, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.